Recess.
Recess.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Okay, Mr. Tremper, you may come up.
Before we get to that, before I interrupted you to go into recess, you were discussing setting a date for a workshop?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to finalize that right now?
Yes. Yeah.
Did November 12th, right?
Oh, I didn't, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
Yeah.
So November 12th at what time?
10 o'clock.
10 a.m. right here?
Right.
All right, and then the contents of the workshop meeting, we will...
It's really capital planning projects. You know, we have the ARPA monies, you know, that we have to discuss and some other things along that line.
And then last time we did this, we did a 12 o'clock noon hard stop. Can we
Yes.
entertain that again?
Okay.
This way I can tell my
10 to
wife
12.
10 to
Yes.
12.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, do we need a motion for that or no? Or Jody did?
No, we
Did
did. Well, Joe, did we have an official motion on the 12th?
Workshop.
I don't think so.
No, okay, so motion.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we have a workshop meeting on Saturday, November 12th, here at Town Hall from 10 a.m. to 12 noon to discuss a variety of subjects having to do with capital improvements, park improvements, and whatever else we put on the agenda.
I'll second it.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
So, Mike, you heard while you're sitting there, we're limiting discussion to 10 minutes. So,
He should be fine. He'll be fine.
and you'll be fine because
But I
actually
bet you could do it in 5.
you're,
I'll do the best I can. Talking about water and sewer, I tend to go on and on. So, like Supervisor, you have a budget.
you're right.
And the other members, I urge you to look at it. You guys won't have the Mets to watch, so you can look at that in your blank time.
I'm sorry, did you want your budget approved? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you want your budget approved? You just talked about the Mets?
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of good information here about flows from the water plants, the sewer plants, how the facilities, the sewer plants are doing against their speedies permits, what the flows are to tri-municipal, discussions about how old the distribution systems are and the collection systems and the pump stations. It's a lot of material to go through one at a time because I have 10 minutes. But I'll try to be factual and keep up. It's been a very difficult couple of years with the water and sewer budgets. Districts, very hard to get routine materials that you would expect to be no problems. The prices are difficult to anticipate, so I sharpened my pencil and I tried to come in far less than what the inflation rates are. And unfortunately, the inflation rates hit, whatever the number is, 8, 9%, whatever you see. The items that we use at the water and sewer facilities and gas and electric are way higher than that. So it's been difficult to come in with a realistic, we've got realistic numbers, but I've really sharpened my pencils. One of the hardest things to predict, believe it or not, now that we can get chlorine. For a while we didn't know we were going to get chlorine, the repair parts, repair lubricants, all those things were difficult, but believe it or not, putting a finger on Central Hudson costs were hard. They went to this new billing system. You could not get, you couldn't get bills to, usually at budget time, you base your next year's budget on their bills. They did a lot of estimating, then they would have these huge bills, then they would give you huge credits. So forget about trying to develop what their percent increase is. It was very difficult to even figure out what the accurate rates are for what we are. And the girls in the office are on the people in the office, not the girls, I shouldn't say that, the office people, they're on a phone just like every other homeowner, just waiting on hold for hours on end to try to talk to somebody about the bills. So electric is an important part of the water and sewer, so those numbers, I think I have good numbers, but it was very hard to anticipate. So the United Wappinger Sewer District in the town, I'll go through them quick and please ask questions, is the biggest sewer district. All the flow from United Wappinger Sewer District goes to tri-municipal. There is 14 pump stations. Some of them are over 50 years old. The infrastructure is over 50 years old. Factoring in the electric costs, the O&M budget for the United Wappinger Sewer District is up a little over 7%. It's higher than I was hoping for, but the power and light is up. Last year, I budgeted $75,000, and this year, I'm looking at $110,000. So a lot of the increases are in the Central Hudson and the repair parts and those type of things. We do have a meter that we measure all the flow that goes to tri-municipal. We read that meter, we calibrate that meter, that number, so we have good numbers when it comes to tri-municipal. I would urge that I've talked to Tim for capital improvements. We have 3 or 4 pump stations, 3 pump stations that are very, very old. One of them was a temporary pump station when it was built in 1974. We're still utilizing it. We need to get some of these old stations offline before we have a real crisis on our hands.
So have you actually brought forward in your budget proposal to get a new pumping station?
Pardon me?
Have you got on, in your proposal here for your budget?
No, this budget is just to maintain the existing infrastructure you have. But I've talked to Tim because he, in conjunction with you guys, was creating a list for the ARPA money, for grant money, for things that need to be looked at. And that is the Baldwin Place pump station, the Fieldstone Farm pump station, and the old Myers Corners Road pump station. All of those are well past their useful life. Additionally, there's a gravity sewer line that flows on Russet Lane between Pippin Lane and a pump station. It's almost an uphill line that gives us a lot of headaches, and I know the supervisor can attest to it. We have to clean it all the time in conjunction with the highway department, and it's flat, and the people get sewer backups, and it's difficult, and it needs to be relooked at.
So can we, Mr. Supervisor, as we talk on the Sunday the 12th, or Saturday the 12th, can we bring this up as part of our capital planning?
That's my intention to have that and a couple other items as well.
Because there's a number of big ticket items you have, we should make sure we address those and figure out how we're going to pay for those things.
Those are the ones, and I have addressed them with Tim, and when you make the mistake of asking me about things that, I like to have new, get things replaced and redone, but those are 4 items that are in the best interest of
And I've asked them whether or not there's any other, exceptional repair, maintenance. As you all know, we have been having, continued failures, but that's normal. According to Mike's, we don't see any exceptional issues as far as replacing any major lines, right, Mike? We've talked about that. So these 4 stations are really the main issue as far as he's concerned.
And the gravity sewer line.
Yeah.
And we've pinpointed some I&I works that if the town wanted to put money into some I&I, we know some areas that need to be addressed. The next sewer plant is the Fleetwood Sewer District. Again, this sewer plant runs completely, this was built in the 60s. It is in compliance with its existing speedies permit, but as with Wildwood and Midpoint Park, the DEC is updating and making it a stricter limits that the facility isn't designed to treat. So where we have to keep running it until there's an alternate solution, we just can't padlock the door and not do anything. The increase there is looking at a 5% increase for the Fleetwood, and we'll run it and we'll keep it in compliance until the DEC
Mike, real
makes us
quick,
seek an alternative.
back to the pump stations. I know everything you get into is different, but you have a ballpark cost to replace one?
Depending on the pump station, like Baldwin Drive, at one time, that could actually go gravity. So with laying some gravity sewer line, and we had to deal with a developer, I know that's a bad word tonight, but we had to deal with a developer that was going to put 4 or 5 homes in, but he was going to take the station out and run a gravity line to Lake Oniad, or that area, but it fell through. So that one there could come out for laying of gravity sewer line. Myers Corners Road is a small station, probably $250,000 to $300,000 for hard costs, and for Fieldstone Farms, a little bit more than that. Fieldstone Farms doesn't have a generator, Myers Corners doesn't have a generator, and Baldwin Drive does not have a generator. They're the only stations you have that do not have permanent generators.
So for our Saturday workshop, would you work with Tim and just get something prepared to discuss with us? Thank you.
I certainly would.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Just for budgeting purposes, capital expenditures are typically bonded. So the only way they show up in the budget process is for debt service
Right.
out years. So it's particularly in water and sewer districts, you don't have enough fund balance to schedule 1 year to do these upgrades. So they're all bonded, and then the debt service comes out in out years. Water and sewer projects typically bonded for 40 years.
Jim, can any of the ARPA funds be used for
Yeah.
this, right?
Yes.
It's my understanding they could.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
I know-
water and
I
sewer.
know other, I mean, and I'm not going to try to do your job, but other towns have
That's
used the
my
ARPA
understanding.
money.
Well, I think the ARPA money, AKA COVID money, I think that would be a good topic for discussion
Right.
within the
Yes,
workshop
it is.
also, so we can fully understand
Right.
what we can use it for and prioritize these items that have been, I mean, we've been talking about these plants for 15 years, and, you know, if we have an inject of money where we can actually get one of them replaced, I think that would be good value.
Yeah, and you have done a few over the year, you know, and so I think it's a good thing, especially when you're talking about Baldwin Drive and Fieldstone Farms. They get a lot of flow.
Like, how important is it to put generators at these sites? I know we just did one a few years ago.
You did two of them. You did one
Sherwood
on
Heights.
Kent. You did one on Sherwood
Sherwood
Heights
Heights, right.
pump station, which was huge, and you put one on Kent Road,
Yeah.
permanent, which was huge. It's very important because when you have an emergency and the power goes out, I mean, it very rarely is one location, so it's a town-wide thing with trees down, wires down, snowstorms. So when you're trying to tow generators around town to hook them up in the middle of a snowstorm or whatever, it just adds to the confusion and the risk of injury and danger to everyone. So if you have one permanently there, it just starts up on itself and runs. Now, there's always a chance that, you know, something fails, but at least if you're out there, you're not trying to tow,
Right.
you know, 2,000-3,000 pound generator across the snowy road or
And what do they go
tree,
for?
whatever.
They go for about 50 to
So it's
75,000?
important. And-
Mike,
Pardon me?
how much do they go for? 50 to 75K, or they?
You know, it just, again, it all depends. The sizes for Sherwood Heights and Kent Road were huge. They were like 75 or 80, I don't remember the numbers. Some smaller ones aren't that much. But the other item, I'll be very honest with you, is the availability. Some other municipalities we work in approved generators, ARPA money. It's been 13 months, and they're still not here
Yeah.
yet. So, you know, that's what you're up against. So when, it's not like it was a few years ago where if you call up and you go, you know what, we decided we want to put a generator here or a generator here, I can just get one in 6-8 weeks. It's now over a year.
Long lead time, sure.
Yeah.
And also on the water side, you know, generators are key in certain situations. In the village of Pauling, I could tell you that my office had to provide a generator for weeks because they had a power failure with NYSEG to their well pumps, and their generator was out of service. So we provided an emergency generator for a number of weeks in order to provide drinking water in the village of Pauling. They don't have CAMO, as far as I know. CAMO has been able to drag generators out to our locations when we have sustained power outages and been able to accommodate. But the ultimate solution is to put these permanent generators where they're needed. So that's another potential capital expense that we can look at, expanding upon our generator capacity for the sewer and the water locations in the town with COVID money.
Exactly.
Yeah, and, you know, we hope ours don't fail on site. I have a very good generator contractor who comes in. I have him come in. But I have 3 or 4 very big ones that could run our wells. If I had to tow one out, you know, and run a well here or a well there, I feel comfortable. We're set up pretty well with those.
Okay.
But it's now DEC and Health Department laws. If you build a sewer pump station or a water plant, you need a generator. So Fleetwood, we talked about Midpoint Park. You have got an extension with the DEC, I think, till 27?
Right. 4.5-year extension.
In the meantime, while you're seeking an alternate solution for that, we have to run the plant, we have to maintain the plant. We can't, again, as I said before, padlock it up and go home. So I put monies in there. We're looking at a 4.5% increase for that O&M budget. Wildwood Sewer, I'm under the impression we're down to our last year, 2 years of the Wildwood Sewer plant. There'll be a pump station there. It will go to tri-municipal. But again, we have to run the sewer plant because of Wappingers Lake, so there's a 5% increase there. So when you get to the next part of the budget is the water. United Wappingers Water. It was a very interesting year for United Wappingers Water. We had a bad drought. We had water. I got concerned because we monitor our well levels. We started to see them go down, but they held their own even in the worst of the drought. We had ample water for everyone. Your normal usage, I won't say normal, January usage at the United Wappingers Water is, let's say, 1 million gallons a day. In the middle of August, in the drought, you were using about 1.5, so you use 500,000 gallons a day extra in the summer months, all
Well,
right?
again, we had also the conservation
Right.
practice
So,
at that time, too.
and you have, your rates they're built around conservation, so people who use more water pay more, people who use less
Right.
water pay less. I think it worked well. In 2019, we had a similar drought. We were pushing 2.1, 2.2 million gallons a day. So you were using less water. Thanks to the board being aggressive with the water development, you had water, you have good well capacity. What we're trying to do now as your operators is work on the efficiency of your well fields, because they're all filtered, state-of-the-art filters. Depending on the water quality from each filter, depends on how quickly we foul the filters. And filters are very, very expensive. They've gotten up to be a lot of money. So, one filter about this long and about this big around is $500. Each cartridge has got 8 of them. So we changed the filters just in materials. It can be $8,000, $9,000. Just no labor. So we run the wells that foul them less. We do a cost analysis on all that. And the wells that run and foul the filters quicker, I'm working with Tim's firm, because we're either looking at putting another pre-filter in to help treat the water better so we get a better efficiency out of them, or like over to Atlas, maybe we got to look for, we have 3 very good wells over there, 1 fouls the filters, maybe we got to look to punch another hole in the ground where we get better water. Right. And, it's the water is there for us to use, but it does get expensive changing the filters, and filters are expensive. So that's something that we're trying, where you're in a very good position with water, you have good water, we just got to try to fine tune it and make it a more efficient, because, that's what we do, that's what you do, So the increase for United Wappingers Water District is 3.6%. It's a big district. We have a lot of water main breaks. If I could say to you, replace these sections of water mains and we won't have any water main breaks, I would. But I don't, we track where they are. There's one over here, there's one over there. Your infrastructure is 50, 60 years old. And I'm going to say this to you, some of the clamps, repair clamps I put on as a kid are now rotting out. So I'm holding up better than the repair clamps. So I mean, that's what...
Yay.
That's the realistic thing with United Wappingers Water, the distribution systems, and we monitor PFOs and PFOAs. You're in compliance with those. It's complex because the health department and EPA are going to start giving us some stricter limits, not so much on the PFOs and the PFOAs, but on the chemistry of them and the compounds that make them up. We're going to have to start recording those. And that's something we all have to watch, because as time goes on, they're everywhere. So we monitor it, we graph it, we send the results out to the engineers. So we're doing, we're keeping a close eye on it for you.
And hopefully, in light of the Wappinger Creek study and initiative. We're now at the point where we'll be rolling out and discussing more here, preventive types of actions that means that those chemical elements won't be coming down the creek as much as they have in the past. So that's going to be a longer-term project to get the right types of filters in the sense of the land and, the restricted use, but that's something also Mike's involved in. And I would say, too, that, some of your preventive work, like at Brinkerhoff, in finding leaks and fixing the problem areas has been a huge help. Knock on wood, but in doing that work.
That's for the Watch Hill Water District.
Right.
We've found a lot of leaks up there, like we did with the Fleetwood Water Districts. So we buy less water, both of those districts. One buys from the village of Fishkill, Fleetwood, the other buys from the town of Fishkill, that's Brinkerhoff. And, if we can get our individual home meters to match the master meters, it's an efficient operation, and that's what we shoot for. In your own United Wappingers Water District, I'm over my 10 minutes, but I'll keep going. If you want me, I'll go home. But you should know, we had that meter replacement program several years ago where the contractor balked out and we had trouble. Camel has replaced over 500 meters. We're down to less than 50, and Lee will be talking to you because the less than 50 we have are people that will need to be persuaded with letters and maybe some type of persuasion to get them to be in compliance. Right. So that list of non-metered people is way down. So we're good on that. The Fleetwood Water District and the Watch Hill Water District we just discussed, and we'll keep going with them. You buy water in each one of those accounts. Yeah. So, and you reach around 5% increase. So that's my story.
Okay, thanks.
And if you would like
job,
questions, or if you read this and you have more questions, or
Just a quick question for you. So all the numbers you put together, you've made sure that from, and I guess working with Leanne and team, that we're able to sustain at least the budgets. In other words, you put a budget together, we're not going to be underwater at all, correct? Because we had some deficiencies in fund balances previously that we had to kind of make up for.
So the budgets I put together end up being in agreement with the town. So over the years since I've been here, I've never been underwater with my budgets. Now, I'm not going to say to you that if we have a rash of a ridiculous amount of breaks or a massive break that's an emergency, I won't come to you and say, this is unrealistic to be covered in my, covered in the budget, those type of things. But strictly O&M issues, electric, chemicals, normal maintenance, you'll be fine on.
Okay.
You'll be good on. And I would be remiss if, my presentation, I don't thank Mike and the Highway Department, because right now we're flushing all the sewer lines, which keeps the maintenance problems to a minimum. When we have a water main break, Mike's guys come out with their Vactor truck, we dig it with an excavator, and then he sucks all the materials out around it. It adds to the efficiency of the job, and it would be a difficult task to do without the cooperation of Mike and the highway guys.
That's really good to hear. Seriously, thank you both.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that.
Really, thank
You and your team.
Thank you very much. Really, Mike, both Mikes, thank you for everything that you do, both of you, for the town.
Yep.
All right.
It's, people recognize, I do want to mention one thing, that we are still in a drought situation. People need to still conserve water, especially people with wells and people without wells. Please conserve your water.
Absolutely.
And Michael, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Great
Okay,
job.
thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Mike Sheehan, come on up.
It's like a game show tonight.
Mike, not a lot to discuss. He doesn't have any major new items and has been maintaining the budget, quite well, subject to the inflationary pressures.
Yeah.
So just briefly say a few comments.
Well, the budget's good. I'm happy with it. Like Mike just said, the inflation, Lord knows where it's going to bring us. The solo's gone up from $62 to almost $75 already. And again, I don't know what's going to happen with that. What I do like to add to it is at the end of maybe 2023, the Vactor is almost at its end of life. It's going to be over $100,000 for them to put into it, just on the back body, because it's rusted and delaminating inside, the metal's falling apart. The mechanics are working on a new Vector, even a trade-in value. It still has value, the truck, for trade-in. So I have them working on it right now, and, you know, just to like give you a heads up in the future, that's probably going to be the next big thing. And as of right now, it's like $475,000 for the vehicle.
Thank you.
Any other big items that you have?
We did get 2 of our new plow trucks in. The other one should be here at the end of the month.
Good.
And I don't want to say it, but let us know.
Rumor has it that we're supposed to have about winter.
Yeah.
Let's hope they're wrong.
So you still have salt coming in?
I have 2 loads coming in. The company Eastern that we've been dealing with, their barge doesn't come in until the middle of November. So they have another company that it's willing to help out, and we get 2 loads every day.
Good.
How much do you have in your salt bin now? Do you have enough
It's
to,
like quarter full, Al.
that's it?
Yeah. But we're good. We should be good.
It's not 3/4 empty.
No, yeah.
I like your outlook.
So you have about $450K in your budget for the salt. It's not going to be enough to get you through, you think, unless we have real harsh
Well,
winter.
again, I can't tell you what's going to happen.
What's that buy you anyway, 450? How many tons of salt are coming
It's like a little over 3,000, 3,500.
in? And what do you have, about 1,000 left over in your bin? 1,000
Yeah,
tons?
probably that.
Okay.
We'll just tell everybody to stay home. Don't drive.
Wouldn't that be easy?
Yes.
So you're over on your fuel now for this year?
Yes.
How much do you think you're going to, because, I mean,
Again,
who
who's-
knew that fuel was going to double?
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Well, anybody that's eating already went up $1.20 since the weekend
I
today.
know.
So I don't know how the people are going to do it on a fixed budget. I really don't.
We do the best we can to guesstimate. It's
Yeah.
obviously, again, unprecedented fiscal roller coaster here.
Yeah. No doubt.
Mike, you've been doing a lot of work, you know, on drainage districts. Everything holding up in your opinion, you know, as far as taking
Yes.
care of
Yep.
those?
Just a few little problem areas.
Yeah.
but We're doing good.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Really, thank
Very
you.
good, thank you.
Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for your hard work.
It's under 10 minutes.
Yes, made up for Mike, yeah, Kemper.
Keep moving, but I just got to run out and get my worksheets. Just keep moving. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Got my worksheet.
We don't have anybody here for drainage, you know, that's why I asked him the question. That's kind of routine, standard, you know, item, you know, that we have. Okay, building and ground, Steve. 10 minutes.
Okay,
And I'd say while you're up here, then address the project list too. It's, you know, just get that. And
Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
what I will do here is touch on the lines that I put increases in, and then if you have any questions about anything else, be prepared to talk about that. The first line is the 71, is .100, and that reflects a 2% cost of living increase. Additional payroll lines of 110, 113, and 114. My request reflected the title change that we had been discussing and an increase in pay for that. 111, 112, and 117 were a 2% cost of living increase. And, you know, that's going to be subject to the contract agreement. That was my proposal.
Do we do something with line, I'm sorry. go
No, I
ahead.
was just going to ask, how many of these people are covered under the union contract?
I think for his, all of them, right?
All except for you?
The
Except
ones
for
that are
Steve.
not are the seasonals, which are the
Yeah.
121 and, or 120, 121. I believe I put a 2% on those as well.
Did we do something with your 117 line?
Actually, what I said here was if we move forward with the title change, or 2 new proposed positions that I put in there, which are,
2 mechanics.
115 and 116, that we could defund the 2 seasonal positions, which was 122 and 123.
So 118 and 119, that's 2 new positions.
Those are
you
2 new
created.
positions, correct.
Okay, and then what would you do with 122 and 123?
We could defund those.
Don't you need those guys because they're seasonal?
Well, what I'm going to have to do, I mean, I'm going to have to, I mean, it would be great if I could. I'm just trying to work with
I got it.
the budget here. But yeah, if I could retain those positions, sure. But what I'm going to have to do during the growing season is redirect some of the labor off the work. I mean, the seasonal positions aren't working out. I can't get them covered. And that's why I proposed moving to a higher level year-round position. And then they would have to jump on the mowers then when the grass.
And that's not an issue if you move them. So lines 118 and 119 could do work that 122 and 123 are doing today?
Correct.
Okay.
But 121, 122, and 123 were vacant all season this year.
Yep. And 117, we did an update earlier in the year, correct?
Right.
Okay. And then the last one is 198, is that kind of?
198 is the contingency, and what I did, I totaled up all the total of all the salaries and took 5% to put on there for overtime projects that happen, like the storm duty, some of these special events, and, we do get called in on occasion to cover things, and I don't like to end up in the red, so.
Does any of that potentially cover, we were talking about working on Saturdays?
I didn't, when I was doing the budget here, I wasn't considering Saturday work. That was more as a emergency fund for, things that happen unexpectedly, and some of the park coverage as well. Saturday, I have somebody come in on weekends to clean restrooms out at Robinson Lane. So that would cover some of that as well.
I think it's great that you put in, these maintenance, the mechanics for like small engine mechanics or?
No, they're called maintenance mechanics.
Okay.
They're building mechanics.
Oh, okay.
I could use, at this point, a automotive type mechanic to keep our equipment and trucks running. I've been doing that myself.
I honestly thought that that's what that was.
Yeah, well,
So
I
was
mean,
very
we
happy about
can
that.
talk about that.
Yes.
I'd be willing to go with 1 and 1 if we could do that. Because at this point, I'm trying to keep our stuff running
Right.
in the shop, and it keeps me off the other work that we're supposed to be doing.
So not to beat a dead horse, but that would help you get some of the stuff off the list of 100 projects if you got these couple extra guys.
Well, that's the idea behind this, because we'd have more skills here to take care of some of that work. Currently, with the current title, we don't have the skill levels that we require to do that.
Yeah, another thing, Al, that we'll be discussing on this Saturday, the 12th, is that, CPL has been looking at basically a redo of the barn. Of course, they're looking at the extension, getting all-weather, capability in there. In other words, heat, air conditioning, which Steve doesn't have other than open doors. That would help as far as catching up on the maintenance if, in fact, you split one of the positions to a small engine and even truck, mechanic. The highway department can do the larger trucks, but he needs the small equipment, mechanic. So that's what he's interested in doing. Okay. So I will hear more about the barn in that facility, but if we get that, moving, and then he'll have a much better environment for working on that stuff during the winter.
Right.
And able to catch up.
What we had talked about doing out there was converting one of our storage barns perhaps into like a small workshop.
Yeah.
And be able to do some of these projects, prepare them there, so when you just come and mount the stuff here, would be a big help. That brings us down to DOT 200, the equipment line. Mr. Hathorn mentioned the lift, and I'd like to revisit the construction lift for purchasing, just to expand what we can and can't do here. We have also had quite a increase in expenditures on tree service, and this lift would have eliminated half of that easily. We have an annual need for the Christmas display, both here and at Schlott House, and it's, any job that would require a ladder is safer to work from this construction lift, and would actually go faster as well, because you're not constantly lugging materials up and down a ladder.
I agree 100% with the use of a boom lift. As you know, I was in that industry for a long time. My only concern is putting up banners. So every pole, you really have to load it back on the trailer.
Right, well,
move it,
what we would have to do
unload it.
is...
You can't drive it up and down the street. I can tell you that right now. I would be livid if that's what we did. They're unsafe to drive on the street. I can tell you this, I saw a boom get taken off by a truck because the guy made a left-hand turn, that boom goes out 40 feet, and the truck went through the boom. So I did that for a very long time. It's not safe for the banners. Like a Verizon type truck or that type of truck, or a tree bucket lift is perfect for that. You raise the boom, you move the banner, and you move the truck. This, you have to literally unload it, use it, reload it, and then move it. And if you're doing it up and down Myers, it's going to take you 3 weeks to do that. So that's my only concern. Trees and building works and everything like that, they're perfect. They're the ideal piece of equipment.
Right.
And that's just my concern.
Well, my thought on what you had just explained was to do a straight stretch, load it up, haul it to another straight stretch. We would be loading it and unloading it, probably do a series, 6, 7 poles, load it up, and, on a
It's just,
straight line.
That's my concern.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that there is, if not used properly. Yeah.
If you need it for the buildings and the trees and stuff, they're perfect. But for the street, you need literally a bucket truck.
Yeah.
And they're two different animals.
Right, exactly.
So Councilman Beal actually said earlier something about maybe leasing a potential, maybe a
Right.
bucket truck. which
It's
I think is-
$400 a week. I make a motion that we rent it for 4 weeks right now to take the banners down.
Sure. Second.
Second.
Kevin, is that the timing right to rent one now, or you?
No, rent it whenever you
Rent
need
it
to.
as
It's in
soon as needed?
November.
That'll probably be the spring.
Is that with an operator?
No, you get the truck and then it's on you.
But I think we have to put in for it because,
I mean, the problem is you got to get somebody trained
Yep.
to use it. I don't know if we got
And
anybody.
there's full safety classes. I mean, I'm sure Bill's.
So I think it's a great idea, something we
But,
should
I think,
explore, but
I see. So Bill has a motion.
Second.
Second. Yeah, and then we
I
can
guess
look
you'll-
into the training and so forth as far as a requirement, right?
can your guys give me
Question
training?
is, the county may have on the bid list a bucket truck with an operator. I mean, you may be better off going with an operator.
You could look, I mean, I don't know who would do that in the area, but you could look into it.
So Steve, maybe look into it, and
Well,
this
we have time.
resolution, would be authorizing him to look into it, with or without operator, right? And
When's
whether or
it
not it's
start? About a month,
400, or
Kevin?
is it going to be more?
So rather than,
Start in about a month?
Yeah.
To take these down?
November.
Start
You do it in
taking them down
November?
in about a month?
Yeah, so we have a little time.
so why don't we do a little more research?
Yeah.
The meeting on the, what is it, 24th is the next meeting?
Yes.
Why don't we
Correct.
come back and have the information available, and leasing is the right thing to do, and you can get an operator to do it? I think at that point in time,
Right.
you move forward.
Because if you're using somebody on staff, they got a, what do they call it, elevated, I mean, there's all kinds of OSHA requirements. And then, under New York labor law, there's, under the scaffolding law, anybody who works at a height
Isn't there
has
additional pay for
real
every,
problems. So,
So how are we doing this right now for 2 years now?
Highway.
Highway's been doing it.
go with a truck and they stand on the top of it?
Yeah, a little
That's all.
dangerous.
What kind of truck are they standing on?
Pickup truck?
Probably pickup truck.
Oh, they're standing on top of the cab?
Wrought iron frame that they stand on.
Oh, okay. All right, rescind the motion for further investigation.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Steve, you can get back to us next meeting, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, check out what the kit.
Kevin,
what the,
so we'll come back on
county
October
has.
24th, with more information, especially related to operator. Well, I think probably the cherry picker, type of truck that would be able to be driven and operated by someone from
Ideal.
pole to pole rather than the other.
You really need 2 operaters. I mean, you need somebody to operate the
drive it,
truck.
Somebody to.
That person gets in the bucket, somebody's got a flag, because
Yeah, they definitely need a
you're
flag.
sitting on, Old Hopewell Road or Myers Corner Road.
Two people on the highway truck anyhow.
Yeah, so if we can duplicate that level of service and training, that would be ideal.
Right,
That'd be ideal.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, 24th. Steve, other highlights?
Yeah,
So what else is in?
Additional-
Go ahead, I'm sorry, please.
vehicle replacement for next year was to purchase a van for the mechanic that we have existing to carry tools in. It would be a compartmentalized van set up for that type of work. And I had included that in there, and then it would leave me with 10,000 working funds throughout the year then for other items that might need replacement.
That's one of those ones, I think, as part of the capital process, we take a look, because it is $70,000 for that.
That's fine.
Down to .412, which is Camo Services.
Can we just go back one? I'm sorry, I apologize. Line 212. You got 15,000 there for parks and benches. Is that really for?
The recreation director will speak about that, but it had to go into my budget.
Because what we need is more bleachers, so I don't know
Well,
if that was a
that's part of my
combination.
project discussion.
Okay.
The recreation director is proposing some picnic table purchases, and it would have to go through my budget area, so that's what that is there for.
Okay.
And she'll speak to that then during her time period. .412 is Camo, and that reflects the estimated increase from Camo themselves.
Steve, one question. On 407, we talk about this all the time. Is
Hold on,
that
I gotta get to it.
Yeah, the camera systems for the parks?
Yeah, and that's on his list too,
Yeah, he's got
priority list.
$4,500, and we know they're expensive. I mean, realistically, if you had what you wanted, what would it cost to cover all our parks?
Yeah.
Because we talk about it all
I'll
the time.
have that number for you then at the next, I can't give you that off the top
Okay.
of my head, but I'll come up with that. I got to consider where we have coverage and where we don't.
Because when you've used them, we know we've caught some
It
people.
runs about $2,500 to $3,000 per park, depending on how big a system I put in for the equipment, and then we do the work in-house.
So this is basically for one park with some upgrades?
Right, and possibly, we're to a point now where we're starting to have to replace
Okay.
components, so it includes some, money for that as
All
well.
right, thank you.
I left off with KMO. Okay, 413, I think the tentative number is the correct one. At the time, I didn't have what was agreed to in the contract, so the tentative number is the contract agreement number, plus enough to buy T-shirts for the employees that are not in the union. Work,
So what is-
identifying T-shirts.
What's the new number then if it's not 3025?
Like I said, that's a good number.
Or is that a good number?
The tentative number should be a good number.
Okay.
How did the docks hold up this year, Steve?
They actually held up pretty decent.
Because I know you replaced some.
Yeah, we did some work on them. We had quite a few storms this year, too. I do have to have some work. One of the railings, because of the high water level during a couple of the storms, one of the railings is rubbed and worn, so I'm going to have that replaced through the winter. But our biggest problem has been keeping the ramp clear.
Yeah.
And so that will be
I was down there the
discussing,
other
too,
day, and it is loaded
As
with...
soon as we get the Schlatthouse Community Day picked up, I've got them scheduled to go
Yeah,
down there
'cause
and get that cleaned.
I had like 4 people go down with their boats,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
It,
"Look."
It's tough to keep up with. When we get the heavy rains, then
No, I
the
understand.
debris really comes in hard. Clothing allowance, okay, gas and oil. Yeah. What I did, we ran out with the 2022 money in July. So what I did was pro-rated that then towards the end of the year of what that number would be, and that's what I put in.
So
for the
we're
fuel.
already at 21,000, you have 23,000, and for 3 months, is that going to be enough?
I don't know. I mean, under current market conditions, yeah, but who knows what's going to happen
Diesel's still
tomorrow.
going up.
Yeah, diesel's going to go sky high, though.
It's going to go up more when heating
You're
ones.
probably a little
Oh,
bit light
yeah.
there.
Yep,
It's
I think it is.
never
The
gonna-
good
never
thing
gonna go down.
is, we don't have a high demand for diesel during the winter months because our equipment runs through the summer months.
That's
But,
good.
I don't know, how that's going to pan out then towards the spring. It's, it's anybody's guess. If I knew, I'd be investing in it. Dot 426 is our refuse line, and that is considering the amount of increase that I got from our carting
Community?
company.
From Community Day,
Yeah.
you got a lot there.
Tree service. The contractor we had been using is no longer doing the work. He was doing the work very inexpensively for us. And, with the higher rates, and then the frequency of these trees this year has been pretty high. I put an increase in there. We could talk about that if we are going to move towards the construction lift, and I could probably make an amendment there.
So that's line 457.
457, yeah.
Now, can we just take a look at it, and maybe Jessica's going to talk about this, 455, where we talk about the bleacher repairs? They're about $1,500.
Do you want to go through, do you want to switch over? Because like I said, I have that, that's
On his
part of my
project list.
presentation here with the job list.
I'll wait for you to go to the presentation then, unless I'm just doing it
Let's
twice.
finish out the budget.
Yep.
first.
The remainder of them I just kept flat.
What
So I
about-
had some working,
What about doing some work for Schlatthouse Park, right? So line 460, we have no money in there.
I don't know, I got
So I'm thinking of things like, and maybe it's expensive, maybe it's not, but painting like the signs out there,
Yeah,
maybe painting the stage,
Definitely.
trying to make it look a little nicer out there.
looks pretty beat.
I believe Schlatthouse has a second line in here somewhere.
Really.
Yes, 424 with 5,000. That may have been a special item at one time that got carried over on the budget.
Well, that's probably more for the bricks then, probably.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not going to,
that's-
for band shell signs, electric, we'll have to look at that probably on the Saturday workshop.
But we should be able to hopefully get some of the things done over at Slide House Park. We only spent less than $1,000 there now, at least that's what the,
Well, I have spent more of that there since these,
again, if that's part of your project.
year-to-date numbers are not real accurate.
Okay, Steve, anything else?
On the budget, that's all I have unless
Okay.
there's questions.
So other than the van for, that you're looking at, the 70,000, any other vehicles that we should be taking forward from a planning perspective that we need to talk about at our meeting on the 12th?
Well, I
Are you going to go through your project list and as part of that?
that's not part of the project
Okay.
list, no. I sent out the replacement schedule, and, that's actually going to get determined too then by our staffing levels. If we add additional people, then I will need to add vehicles for them to work out of. But the two Colorados right now are the hard things that need to get, well, the one that's been replaced, but the second one I'm going to bring up here in a few minutes. But that van is the purchase. That's going to replace one of the school buses that we had purchased. What happened was the stairwell on that rotted out, and it's quite a job to repair that. So it would replace the school bus and actually be a better vehicle for them to work out of. It's, I don't know if you see the plumber vans with the toolboxes built into them and such. It's very similar to that. That way, the tools can stay on the truck. What he's doing now, working out of the pickup truck, he has to unload the truck every day. But these are all locked compartments. He can lock the truck at the end of the day and just jump in it the next
Right.
morning and get to work.
Save some time, yep.
Right, quite a bit of time.
Yep.
By the end of the week, it's a substantial amount of time.
Okay.
So do you want to move on to the project list?
Sure.
So what I did, based on our last discussion, was pick my 5 most important projects from both the 5 from the contracted jobs and then 5 from the in-house work. I also gave you a list there of the obligations that we have between now and the end of the year. So Community Day cleanup, we put a big dent in that today, but it may take another day or two to finish up. Then we'll run down there and clean the docks up. But towards the end of the month, then, we're going to have to set up for the Halloween celebration and break that down thereafter. I have to plan, usually I plan sometime mid-November, depending on the tides. I have to work with the tides to get the docks out. That takes a day. The Christmas display, that takes all of a week, perhaps part of a second week, to do all the Christmas setup there. And then winterizing all our outbuildings, because they are unheated. We have to blow out all the water lines and
Right.
treat with antifreeze. That takes several days to get that done. And then, of course, get the snow equipment ready for use. So those are what would interfere with, getting the project list done. But what happened was I had started this project list and put the roof repair at Carnwath as number 1, but I'd like to prioritize the toilet problem next door as the top level problem. I'm working with CPL on that to put a plan together that I can get out and get some quotes on for you. I have told them that that's an urgent priority. Then would be the roof repairs down at Carnwath, both on the admin building and the carriage house. If we are going to preserve those buildings, those roofs really need to be addressed. Paving of the rear parking lot here, we all know the shape of that, and the Investigation work is underway on putting an overall plan together on that. Chelsea Boat Launch still has that big pothole in the ramp, and both retaining walls. And we still haven't determined who actually owns those walls, but
I thought we did. I thought it was,
It's on Yacht Club property.
it is.
yeah, have
okay.
we contacted them about fixing that because of a safety issue? Because they're going to collapse.
Well, yeah, the one is pretty much all.
No, I know, yeah, exactly. So what do we go, I mean, since we don't own it, we can't fix it.
Right, we had discussions, but
We need to do something because somebody is going to get hurt.
we're encroaching on the property quite a bit.
Well, can you tell us what we
We'll have
can
a
do,
discussion off,
please?
yeah.
Thank you.
Didn't CPL do a quick study?
I thought they did too.
Ask them to do more on,
They got to do a cough
yeah,
exam and...
that's right,
all that.
exactly.
So we need to have that on our meeting
Yeah,
on Saturday.
correct.
And then the last one would be to replace the floor here at Town Hall. It's original to the building. We can't maintain it at this point, and it's the first thing that people see when they come in. You know, we can't make it look any better than it does now in its current condition. Then with the in-house
You had
work-
given us quotes before.
Right.
I assume those have
Now,
changed
yeah,
significantly.
the problem is, those
so-
quotes are 3 years old
Yeah.
at this point,
Right.
and it was
Yeah,
approaching
last time
100.
to do a town hall, I think it was about 100,000.
Yeah, it was close to 100,000 to do the floors.
And that was pre-COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
We'll never get the stuff now.
The same thing with the roofs, or at least the roof on the admin building, I had been given a quote of, in the area of 35,000, but again, it's a 2 or 3 year old quote now, too. You know, big problem is the construction materials increased quite a bit. So down in the in-house work, I did another survey of the bleachers in town, and we can either replace or repair, and the determining factor in that was we do have some 5-tier bleachers that meet code, which means they have the guardrails for the upper levels. And those I can put aluminum planks on to replace the wood. Fairly easy job to do. But the ones that are not, that don't have the guardrail on them, are not in code and eventually will cause us a problem. So with those, I want to replace those with a 3-tier, which do not require the guardrails, and they would be longer, give the same seating capacity, but it would be all aluminum, maintenance-free, and that'd be the end of it. We're done. Unless someone, you know, gets damaged somehow. But I did, based on what I found online for cost, we're looking at about $70,000 in materials to do all the bleachers in town. And that would give the soccer club 2 additional that they've requested. I don't have that in my budget, no. Whether you want to put it into next year's budget, or, you know, I had planned on getting this stuff ordered as soon as possible,
I think there's
so that
another
we
one.
could do that through the winter months.
I think there's another one we talk about from a capital planning
Saturday,
perspective, because we're going to have a bunch of items, so we just
Right.
got to make sure we take notes and put a list together so we know on that
No,
Saturday we're going
that's
to talk
correct.
about.
Then I'd like to get the cameras done at the carriage house down there, finish that job. Quiet Acres.
But I'd say, Steve, though, as to the bleachers for which you do have adequate replacement, subject to putting in new, you know, the aluminum grids, right? You said you had a couple of those that you could use, or?
I'm not understanding the question.
Bleachers.
Yes.
You said in your prefatory comments you had a couple already that met the requirements for railings, and all you had to do was
Right,
put in the
just-
wood.
I just need to
So-
replace the
So those you can do, it's the new
Well,
ones. Or
the
are you
aluminum
including
plank-
those in this quote too?
Yeah, that's all
Okay.
inclusive, yeah.
Okay.
That's all inclusive. Yeah,
And these include all parks, including Castle Point?
right.
Okay.
Now, the question was whether or not we still need bleachers at Castle Point, as no one is using those fields.
I think we need
Well, I
to,
think we need to have
Okay,
them in
but-
case of the
Okay.
future.
I did include
we
it
need
here.
to develop a plan for usage, right?
Right,
Recreation
exactly.
usage.
The roofs on the outbuildings at Quiet Acres need to be replaced. And prep and paint the gazebo over here at the end of the building, and then pressure wash the algae from the lower foundation on this building.
Can you add into the in-house, the stuff over at Sled House Park too? 'Cause
I
know
can
there's
add
something
anything you
fire-
want. I mean, what I did was to give you my, you asked me what my opinion is.
Yeah.
This is it. And this is to put it in front of you. If you want to talk about doing something different, that's what we can do.
Could we start getting prices on these vending out
Yeah.
jobs? I mean, obviously, the EMS building, I think, is a super priority.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need to get that whole system.
Right.
And Bill and I have discussed some other things about it, and we'll discuss later, but yeah, we need to look at that quickly, especially with the winter, and any place that we have, outbuildings, right now, including at Carnwath, we can't continue to have that, even during nice weather, and it's a real problem. So yes, I think, Steve, you get, quotes, work with, CPL where we need to, we work with other, vendors, look at the list.
If you don't mind, I'd like to wait until after the workshop to do that. I mean, I'll have ballpark numbers, but I hate bringing these contractors in.
Okay.
The one contractor, I've had him look at Carnwath, an admin building, 3 or 4 times.
Well, with the exception, though, of the EMS building, we
Well,
need to do that right now. Okay.
As soon as I get a plan from
We need to do that,
CPL,
not
I'll
wait
get that
for the
out
workshops.
quotes.
Actually,
Yep.
probably need to be positioned to make a decision on funding at the next board meeting on the 24th.
For the,
Right, no, I was
If
referring,
not sooner, yeah, I agree.
I was referring to the ones that have been
Yeah,
on.
okay, but EMS is
Blow
the
up.
top priority, for sure.
okay.
So that's the project list. I have a couple other items to discuss, and one is the replacement pickup for the second Colorado. The window of opportunity opens on the 17th, and it will remain open, they told me that the last batch of pickups that they had sold out in 4 days. So what I would like to do is, if if this is something we're talking about doing, then I'd like to get your approval for a cap amount. And once I get that price on it, if it's within that cap, to go ahead and order it. It's to replace the second Colorado that is very problematic in keeping it to pass inspection. And it's actually a lot smaller than what we need to work with. We'll be replacing it with a full-size pickup with plow, identical to the one that we got last year,
And when's the window open?
on the 17th.
Okay, what was your estimate before, 35,000 or?
Well, the one from last year was 40,000.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the costs of these things are not discounted the way they had been in the past. I believe the cap on it would be about 55. That would be close to list price. Initially, they had been discounting list price by close to 20%, but they're not doing that in today's market. The van, I think we got a $3,000 or $4,000 discount on that. And that wasn't, it was initially, last year when I priced it, was $28,000, and it came in at $33, I believe it was this year. So, there has been an increase in them, and that's part of the problem with the availability.
So what happens if we decide we're not going to do this tonight? Do you have, for you?
I won't have the opportunity to do it again until this time next year.
No, but my point is, can you still use the truck as it is today, or is it a dire emergency? Is it a safety issue? Is it?
Well, the mechanic gave his opinion that this truck is not worth putting any additional money into. I explained this before, that the emission system on this particular truck is extremely complicated, very sensitive to motor oil, and you have to do, they had to do a back-to-back oil change on the last one that they repaired in order to get the light to go out. And that's the trouble. The check engine light comes on for the emission system, and then it won't pass state inspection. And we got banged for having a truck without a sticker on it here.
When was the last inspected, the truck, do you know?
I'm sorry?
When was the truck last inspected?
I believe that was
April?
around June or July, maybe. It's-
Maybe a little bit earlier,
Yeah,
but it was
might
this
have been.
year.
It was earlier in the year,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, it'll be up for inspection again in spring, late spring of next year.
Yeah, and
And I
at the
can't
time,
guarantee that it'll pass.
yeah.
So we're looking at 125 between the van and the pickup, roughly?
Well, for next year, I mean, yeah.
Well, I
Worst
think,
case,
yeah,
worst case.
Steve, I think we, since Frederick's not here tonight, need to consult with Frederick. I think, Al, we need to look at that and see how it impacts the rest of the budget and planning. I mean, we're, getting tighter, and, my concern, everybody's concern is with the economy. I sent to you that letter, or speech by the Vice Chair of the Fed, and that's not good news, even in his optimistic way. So I suggest that we need to talk with Frederick and get some idea what the impact may be. Of course, you have capital, you could bond it, but also we have that, to look at from the top.
Jim, what fund would that come out of? Is it B?
Could use it for big.
Could use it.
When I had put this, I put both vehicles in last year's budget proposal, and at that time, the board determined that they would purchase these with fund balance. And, here we are,
But
I go
we have
through
a
this
lot
every
of
time
things
this
we've been,
comes up, and-
Steve, though, we have a lot of things purchasing with fund balance, and to make the budget that is out there, we're using
Some
fund
of that
balance
fund
from B. So that's why we need to be careful. We need to understand.
I understand that, but I've been trying to prepare
I
for this
understand.
all
Yeah.
summer long.
Yeah, but nobody said that you haven't been.
Yeah,
We understand
yeah,
that.
right.
But the economy is what it is. Nobody had any power or foresight to
Well,
see what's
that
going on.
doesn't change our need
I
for the
understand the
equipment
pain
either.
that you're going through, but
Understood.
so is everybody else, unfortunately.
It doesn't change your need, but now we've got to take a
Right.
look at
Yeah,
some of the financials to see what it means.
So we're going to work on it, we're going to figure out something, but like you said, we need
The
to bring
bottom
in
line is, if I don't
Frederick.
have an answer before the 17th, we're going to miss the window. I mean, there's no way around that. That's the manufacturer's cutoff date. So,
You need an answer by October 17th?
yeah.
That's not going to happen. You're not going to get an answer by October 17th.
Say again?
You're not going to get an answer from the board by
Well,
October
that's
17th.
why I tried to prepare you for getting an answer here to put a cap on tonight.
Right, but putting this in the budget
I didn't
is,
put it in the budget, I put it in last year's budget.
right, but proposing these purchases tonight is not going to, I don't know how we can approve it tonight before October 17th, though.
Well, I've been speaking about this all year long.
Yeah.
And sent you all the documentation I have on this. I don't understand what the stumbling block is, other than, I do understand that there is some concern about the upcoming finances.
Right.
But like I said, I put this in my budget last year and was told then that we would use the fund balance to do this.
No. Understood, Steve, but
And I have been
things
telling
have-
you all season long that the window is coming here, and it's very short.
No, we don't.
And that's why I've asked you to move on these things when I don't have a choice in the matter. If I could, I'd give you 6 weeks to think about it, but we don't have that.
Well, didn't we just buy a vehicle at the 2 meetings ago?
Yeah.
We just bought a
You
vehicle.
bought a different vehicle.
Right. I know, so,
I think, Steve, again, the issue is, and I think it's our responsibility, because we are also talking about the budget, we have drawn down under the proposed budget on the B fund balance in order to do what we want to do, with respect to tax rate and everything else. So that's why I say I need to talk to Frederick, what does a $100,000 hit, mean, for us from that point of view? I'm sorry, but that's.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about purchasing
board
one
disagrees?
vehicle, then I could push the van off a year. the pickup right now is more important to replace that pickup than the van. But, you know,
You talking about the Colorado?
I'm going to be
Yeah.
stuck in a position where I can't get the guys to the jobs.
You're talking about the Colorado,
Yes, yeah.
and this is a new one, brand new,
What's new?
the Colorado. that you
No,
wanna
it's
buy.
2009.
Okay, I'm just checking.
No, no.
Sorry.
No, it's a
Right,
2009.
we had two 2009 Colorados. One of them was replaced,
Just
correct?
recently. Yes.
Well, it's on order. And
Right.
the other one is taken off the road, is sitting out back for
Right.
surplus sale.
Right, but my understanding was that one was being replaced, and the other one we were going to try to keep it running.
Well, until the pickups became available, which is now,
Okay.
the full-size pickups. I haven't been able to get an opportunity, they won't release the pickups. What they have a compact pickup called a Maverick, and I was talking to the dealer. That Maverick was available for fleet sales, which is what we are. We're fleet sales. That Maverick was available for fleet sales for 4 days. And then they closed it.
How in the world can a municipality purchase a
That's-
vehicle in 4
I mean,
days?
you know as well as I do the problems.
Right, I know.
And that's why I want to jump on, at least get a chance. There's no guarantee, even if I put the request in, that I'll be picked out of there. But, you know, without being able to back it up, I certainly can't do that. But, you know, like I said, I've put these things on replacement schedule since 2019. And then, since then, the condition of these trucks has deteriorated very fast, to the point where I'm dumping money into them just to keep them on the road. And it just, in my opinion, I'm trying to run this like I would my own finances. I don't see the point of dumping money into these junk vehicles.
No, I understand.
I just don't think it's going to happen tonight.
No.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't under the impression we were buying vehicles tonight. That wasn't my impression. My impression was that we were going to be discussing next year's.
I sent an
fiscal.
email out 2 weeks ago explaining the situation
Yeah.
and said that I would request that you offer me a cap, a spending cap, to move forward with this. I don't know how else I could have worded it.
I think we're going to have to wait and at least have the discussion with Frederick
Yeah.
to figure out where we're at.
I'll talk with them, you know, tomorrow.
When is that meeting, the workshop session?
It's not till November.
It's way too late for you to
Well,
make
we're
it.
going to have to reschedule that because November 12th is the day of the craft fair, and apparently they're using all the rooms in the building.
Okay,
Good point.
So we have to look at a different date.
19th then?
Is there any way that we could give this some special consideration before the 17th, after you get your information from Frederick? 'Cause like I said, I'll be in a jam until this time next year.
Well, I think if the supervisor were to talk to Frederick and let the board know, we could make a decision, no?
I'm not so sure that changes anything right now.
Right, well, I mean, at least we can know where we're at.
I mean,
Well,
there's a number of other things he's already going to have
Yeah,
for her to
we
take a
have.
look at.
Right.
Well, what's the total cost? You're looking for at 2 vehicles, right? What's the total cost?
Well, like I said, I'll drop one out of that
Right,
list.
but, so for the
But the total
Colorado,
was, what,
125,000, right? 70
125.
plus the 50.
for both. The one vehicle is high-end. Max, I think, is going to be 55. I don't expect it, I expect it to be a lot closer to 50, perhaps underneath, but I don't want to say that and have it come in over.
So what do you estimate, can you get any, you know, auction value out of the existing one? And also, we have the existing sedan.
Yeah, we've got 3 vehicles here.
I
to
understand.
surplus.
Yeah, can we, you know, again, looking at how we can balance it from a financial point of view.
Right.
You know, you
The 2
could give a
pickups
cap,
combined
but
might
subject to
bring
getting,
5,000, I'm not sure on that.
how much, I'm sorry?
Perhaps 5,000 between the 2 pickups. And I've got,
And the sedan? the old supervisor's car.
Yeah, that, I don't know the market on that very well.
So the 2 Colorados plus the sedan, you can only get $5,000?
No, he doesn't know about
I don't know
the
what
sedan.
the,
He's saying
I don't have
Colorado.
an
Probably
idea
not
what
worth
that
much
should
anyway.
be.
That Impala, you'll be lucky to get $1,000 for that.
Yeah, maybe.
Exactly.
No, I'm serious.
No, I agree.
I have an Impala that's a 2009 that's worth about $1,000. That's like an 05 or something.
So 5,000-6,000 probably.
You're not going to get any money for that. So, net $40,000 to purchase one vehicle or more? We need definitive numbers right now if we want to even consider this. You're telling me we have 6 days to figure this out and we don't have a meeting for 14?
What number is it you're looking for?
If you were to choose one vehicle out of the two that you say,
The less expensive would be the pickup that I'm talking about right now.
which is how much?
55?
Like I said, I put a cap of 55 on it. I anticipate it to come in around 50, but again, I don't want to say that with the market being what it is. It's very unstable right now.
Just keep in mind, we said with the $70,000 vehicle, we're going to talk about that as part of the capital planning process. I think that's already off the table. So we're really only talking about his $55,000 vehicle here, and I don't know if this is the time to spend $55,000. That's
I
just my
think we
opinion.
need some more information.
Well, I got to have a quote in front of me
Yeah.
on the vehicle. Got to have a quote.
Well, yeah, but I can't give you that quote until the window opens. All I can do, I went online and I built the truck on Ford's website. The number I sent
Here's
you
Frederick.
is the list price on it.
Here's Frederick.
Plus $5,000 for
I don't know if you'll know.
the snowplow. So the truck comes in about $50,000 list price, 55 puts the snowplow on it. I would hope that it would come in less, but that's the worst case scenario. Fleet prices are not being discounted the way they had in the past.
Right. So you can't get the quote until the window opens?
No.
So that basically gives you 3 business days to buy it based on,
You put the quote out. What they're recommending now is you put the thing out there for 4 days, a 4-day solicitation, or it may even be a 3-day solicitation. And if you get awarded, if you get people, and that was part of the other problem, I didn't get anybody bidding on the stuff the other times I was putting it out there, just
So
because they didn't have anything to bid.
So you're trying to say they're going to bid on this? So starting on the 17th, they start to bid?
It's purchasing through the New York State OGS procurement system. And what they do, I send them the specifications, New York State posts it, and then the dealers, it's what the old state bid process used to be. And this is what they call a mini bid system now. They post it, and the dealers all compete for the lowest bid. And
So they could say it started off at 55, could end up at 65,000, or is it? How does that work?
Well, because the municipality buys the lowest, they're competing for the lowest price. That's what they're doing. So, I don't have an objection if we authorize him to submit his specs to the New York State OGS system when the window opens, and then immediately provide us what the, what the outcome is based on his specs. In other words, if he gets, say there's 5 vendors in New York State that end up putting a bid in, right? 59,000, 58,000, down to 51,000. He can provide us with that information, and we can decide if we're in a position to move forward at that point, if we choose to. I don't think it hurts to have him put the specs out there on the bid site.
I'm okay with putting the specs out there, but I don't want to be forced in 3 days to make a decision. That's
Well-
kind of crazy to do that.
Well, essentially, if we feel that we have consensus to make a decision, the supervisor can call a special meeting, if we have consensus.
Yeah.
If we don't have consensus, it's moot. I don't think it hurts to put it out there, because I can tell you, I do understand what you're saying, because we're dealing with the same issue at the county, where we have specific specs, and we're constantly putting out the specs. And every time a window opens, we don't always act, because we don't always like what we see, right? So my point here is...
Well, that could happen here too, then.
Correct. My point here is have them put them out there, put the specs out, see what the dealers, if they even respond, sometimes they don't respond.
Right. I've put it out there 3 times since January.
Right. Then he can send us what the response is, and we can decide if we have a consensus to move forward. If we do, the supervisor can call a special meeting and we can act. If not, at least we put it out there.
Like we have 3 days, 3 business days to act.
Right, but
You could always come to a consensus and then approve it retroactively, because the payment's not going to be made until it's delivered.
Okay.
Okay.
So were the Colorados plow trucks?
No. Colorado is a compact
So
two-wheel drive
what's the
pickup
difference
truck.
if you, I mean, price-wise, if, yeah, obviously you're probably getting a 2,500 or 250?
Right, it's 350, yeah.
350.
Yeah.
So what about a 1,500 pickup truck to bring your guys back and forth?
They won't take the work that we need to do. They don't have the towing capacity. You know, it's a lighter duty chassis, and that's why these trucks are in the condition that
Well,
they're in.
that's why I'm asking, you know, if
Yes.
you need a plow truck.
And there, ideal, there really is only a difference of like $2,000.
So how do we do it today with the Colorados, then, if the Colorados can't have the capacity to pull that heavy stuff? So I'm just trying to figure out if you got the new, so what are you doing today? Well, how are you moving, whatever, your trailers and everything else around?
I gotta jockey trucks around,
Okay.
you know, and we're wasting time doing that.
So back to 2009, we bought those two Colorados because they were cheap. We had no money. That was the whole thing back then. They were very cheap, and I was here. So we were able to get a ridiculously low price. We knew we were buying two cheap, you know, low-end vehicles to get, and those were designed to get people to job sites, not to pull trailers like we're doing now. So it's 2022, for God's sakes. They've served their life, and now we
They were
want to.
great trucks for the first 4 years, and then they started to fall.
But
Right.
we just bought a brand-new vehicle that's going to be
Yes.
able to do that.
That's one.
That's one.
Correct, that was my point before. We're not buying one right now, okay? But I do see his point with respect to being able to tow and have plowing capacity. You can't plow with those Colorados, right?
No.
No, they can't plow with
Not
those.
anymore, any.
So this gives you plowing. So right now, we're not spending any money. I'll make a motion that we authorize the Supervisor of Buildings and Grounds to submit the specs to the New York State OGS website. You can't take any further action until the board authorizes it anyway, so it's not going to hurt, but at least it'll give us an opportunity to see what's out there and what those price points are. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Okay.
No harm, no foul. I mean, if we don't get anything back, and if we do, we can't do anything until we gain consensus to have
Right.
an action. That's all.
I do have another issue.
Your time's up.
Yeah, more
Really?
than enough.
You're way over 10 minutes.
I know. Last fall, I ordered a trencher and made an agreement with the highway superintendent to use their machine to power the trencher. What we would use to do electrical, water lines, the camera lines, you know, it's a tool that we would use quite often. The manufacturer had promised us delivery in April of this year. I encumbered the funds, which was around $7,000 for it. April came and went. They gave me the delivery date of October. They've just called now that they're talking about a delivery date of April of next year, and they want to add $5,000 to the agreed upon price. I canceled the order. I did find an alternative that is $2,000 additional, but, you know, I encumbered the money from last year. I don't have that money available to me this year. So I did, you know, if I'm going to be able to get the trencher, I would need your help.
Was it the same trencher? I mean, is it a trencher you're getting?
It is a trencher.
Once that's encumbered, is it
Right.
a trencher?
Yeah, but this is $2,000 in addition to the money.
Right, so you just
that I
need
encumbered.
So we
$2,000.
need $2,000.
So I'll move that we authorize $2,000 for the specific purpose of matching the encumbrance to total $9,000 for the trencher.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions?
Done.
Seeing none, motion passed.
Thank you.
Done.
Are you done yet?
I am.
Yes.
Okay.
Spending too much money.
Quickly.
Who else has a 10-minute time?
Jessica's 10, she's down to 5. 5 minutes.
We were doing good for the first 2 hours.
Yes. The last hour was tough.
Yeah.
We also have to figure out the 12th.
Yeah.
We are done, we will be done and cleaned up here by about 5 o'clock if you wanted to do.
Yeah, right. My wife will never let me.
5 o'clock tomorrow? I don't think so.
No, she's talking about having our meeting at 5 PM on that Saturday.
Yeah, on the 12th, we'll be all
I
clean.
think we
Okay,
gotta
move.
Oh,
Go
no,
for
no,
it.
no, no,
Come on,
no, no.
Different
Forgive
Saturday.
me.
That's not
Sorry.
going to happen.
So the first thing I wanted to update on before I actually get into the budget, and I swear it's only about 2 seconds, was Councilwoman Bettina's request for the new letters for the sign. Our vendor has been reaching out to try to find that match the letters that we already have, so we don't end up looking like a ransom note up there. The price came back at $2,000.
For letters?
For the letters, because they are discontinued by most manufacturers, so to get them to match. So what I'm doing is actually right now going out and looking to find out if it's cheaper to start from scratch.
Exactly.
With a non-discontinued font.
Fine.
So,
Thank you.
no problem. I just wanted to let you know that I did take care of it, and it came back at a astronomical price. So the other...
Thank you.
No problem. So the other thing is, Steve had mentioned in his budget that there was $15,000 that I had put in there for picnic tables. At summer camp, they are, as we grow in capacity, in need of more seating. We also have several picnic tables out there that are the old ones that, other than being very difficult for our counselors to move, are starting to come apart at some joints and having sharp corners on them. So not only do we need to replace some that are out there that are the decades-old ones, we need additional seating for the capacity. We also need new picnic tables in the majority of our parks because those old picnic tables are starting to show their wear. And I can't tell you at this moment exactly how many picnic tables we would get for $15,000. The vendor who did our original picnic tables is currently resubmitting their New York State bid paperwork. The picnic tables that we bought years ago that I like for Mart's have held up fantastically, and I want to do everything I can to actually work with the same vendor. So that $15,000 that's in there, at this moment, I can't tell you what we'll get for that, but they are high quality, and they'll be in multiple parks. So
when can
Jim knows the New York State bid process, paperwork takes ages.
So when can you get an estimate to see if 15,000 is the right number? And I mean, maybe only buy 5, and how many do you need? Do you know?
So we definitely need at least 6 more for summer camp. Anything additional that we could purchase with those funds would go to Castle Point, where the picnic tables, other than there being very few of them, they're in very poor condition, and then possibly a pair down under the small pavilion at Quiet Acres. And then we also have to deal with the fact that we've done pavilion updates at Spook Hill, so we're going to want to have newer picnic tables under there as well. So that's why that amount was put in there. I can't put it in my budget. It has to go in Steve's just because of the coding for it. All right. So to jump into mine, I'll make it quick. I'll only talk about changes. We're going to start in the A fund, and we're going to be in group 7620. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is 7620.104. And you're going to see what looks like a significant increase in that line. But if you look further down into 7620.110, that line is zeroed out. We currently have one instructor who is teaching all of our fitness and yoga class. It's easier to combine the lines, it's easier for payroll. So that's that change in there.
So that includes Zumba, yoga?
Yeah, Meg Foster, who is adored by our seniors, does both Zumba and yoga.
So you're essentially flat when you add the two together, so all you do is combine the two?
Exactly.
Okay.
Just to make it easier for payroll and record keeping. If you jump down to 7620.408, that is the Christmas party. There's only an addition of $500 to that. Things don't get cheaper, they get more expensive, so we have to add a slight amount in each year. Where you get to something a little more significant is if you jump all the way down to the bottom of that group, 7620.419, which is the garden club. I've added an extra $1,000 in there. to help them continue the good work. All right? And below that, you'll see the addition of a new line, which is our book club. Our book club is not a new activity, but it's gotten to the point where it requires its own funding, whereas we were trying to tuck it into funding through special events and things in the past. It's growing in size, and it's going to require its own funding. So that's a new line funded at $2,500.
So did that fall under the miscellaneous 401 before? And now you're putting it as a separate line, or is it an additional new line?
Say that one more time.
So line 401 is a miscellaneous line. So you only have $2,000 supposedly spent in there now. Is that really a part of the miscellaneous before, now it's a new separate line?
Do you mean .407?
What?
Do you mean .407?
407.
Sorry, 407, I
Okay.
can't see it.
Okay, no problem. That is one of the things where we were pulling that funding from as well. So, but the miscellaneous line's primary function is to fund anything new and exciting or any upgrades that we do in the senior center, furniture-wise, equipment-wise, things like that. We have a really fantastic senior center assistant who comes up with a lot of great ideas, and you need to have something in there to be able to support new ideas that you don't have right here at the time that you're standing putting together the budget. So it's really just to support the growth of the program. And that's a line that actually was, was already there. We're just continuing it. So in the A fund for the senior center, what questions would we have?
Let's move on, just
Let's
keep
go to the
moving on.
Okay, I'll move on.
We can ask a lot of questions if you like.
What was that?
I said we can ask a lot of questions if you like.
All right.
We need to move.
I was told to move on. All right, so let's jump into the B fund. Okay. So in the B fund, we're going to jump down to the first significant change, which is 7020.199, which is our comp line. That is to support some of the additional time that was approved by the board earlier for support staff at things like summer concerts and other events. So that one is that increase.
So two questions. So 109B, we've got $6,000 and then we spent zero, and I get that we need park attendance. Do you still need $6,000 next year?
So we've been trying for multiple years and coming up with the same issue that Steve comes up with hiring seasonal staff. The park attendant jobs were put in about 3 years ago as an attempt to have some more maintenance out, not maintenance out on the weekends, but opening, closing gates, going off and shutting off baseball lights at 11 o'clock at night, things like that. But as is happening with many other things, you can't get part-time help. So if there is an interest in reducing that one,
No, I'm just asking. I'm not saying we're going to reduce it.
Yeah.
And the only other one I have in the 7020, at least in the 100s, is 101B. Does that look right, the department versus the tentative? It's a significant difference.
it is a significant.
So if this is something you need to discuss in executive, that's fine,
Correct.
but it doesn't make sense.
I think it's an A-B shift.
No.
No,
Not? Okay.
No.
We'll talk more about it offline.
Yes.
correct. All right. So flipping the page, we skip all of Steve's lines because I am on both sides of Steve's lines. If we get into the 7140s, So in the 710.103B, as a departmental, I had put in 8,000, and that one was reduced to 7,000. 7,000 is, we spent more than that this year already, so that's why I had increased it to the 8. So I would like to say, once we get to the point where we're making changes, I really would like to see that brought up to 8, because I will run over budget on that line.
You got revenues on that, though?
Yep.
All right, so Frederick, the revenues for the sports, like gymnastics and such, are those coming into a specific line for people that are paying for those programs?
We have a general, it's like a .2001 revenue line in the B fund that goes into, which is where all of our program revenue goes into.
What we really should do is, where you have revenue and you got expense, you should be able to see or be able to identify if you've got revenue coming in for those specific things, and I'll make it up, you have $1,000, but you're spending $4,000, that's fine, but we should be able to see that there is some level of offset, because we
And
can't tell, because again, it
Right.
goes into a gigantic miscellaneous bucket.
On these, you're correct. Internally, I can get you all of those numbers.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, that would be valuable. If you can provide us with an actual analysis of the revenue per sport based on your expense, then I'm sure we'll have no problem giving you another $1,000 if the revenue matches.
Yeah,
Right.
It's just a pass-through, that's all it is.
yeah.
Well, the problem is, I don't think the revenue is going to match. I think that you're going to get some level of revenue, but I don't think you dollar for dollar.
All right.
On that program, you may.
You may.
Well, let's see.
Gymnastics.
Give us
I was
the
going to say,
numbers,
I can get you, I can
And-
absolutely
Yeah,
get you
please.
those.
and we'll see.
Because, I mean, the object of the game, and, we've said this before, is we want to try to get as close to zero as possible on
Correct.
these things.
Yeah. And we also have some where we do show a profit on this one, we lose a little bit on that one, and towards the end, it all evens out pretty well. The next change would be if we jump down to 7140.400B. There is a significant increase in that line. We've begun selling merchandise for a lot of our programs. T-shirts that people can buy, water bottles that they can buy. So those are actually revenue-generating products, but we need to pay for them before we can sell them. So I can tell you, we went over a little bit in that line this year, but every single kid from gymnastics paid $10 to buy a gymnastics T-shirt. So we're talking about another thing where the line's going up, but there's revenue associated with that increase.
What happened with the volleyball program?
Volleyball went out quite a while ago with us, one, for the inability to get gym space, and
I'm
two,
specifically over March.
over at Mart's. So it's a public facility, and it's a public facility that is used constantly. So what you have is a lot of pickup activity over there. For us to have our own program over there, we would be booting up or booting out all of the pickup game activity. I don't necessarily think we would get significant signups for it when these folks would rather get together and play their pickup
Didn't
games
we have a
out there.
league go in there and provide us with nets and everything?
That is a separate one. They signed a 3-year contract with us. It's specific nights of the week and a specific time.
Are they using it?
They are.
Because I've talked with the other councilman here, you go past the old Fun Central, there's hundreds of people out there on
Correct.
any given summer night.
Correct.
And I think we need to upgrade that facility a little bit, but
I agree with you.
there's
Right.
obviously...
It's
there's a
constantly
need,
used.
For
obviously.
this.
There's a need for definite upkeep and improvements to the facility. Having our own league the best way to put it is, why would you pay for something that you're getting for free as a pickup game with your friends?
Well,
So,
you don't necessarily have to, I mean, if you go to play baseball, you pay
Right.
yeah.
$30 for a
Yeah.
sign-up fee. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's very
Something we should look
negligible.
into,
Yeah, just,
because it looks like the community, there's a need for it. Like you said, they go to Fun Central, it's packed.
Yeah. Oh, and ours are
So-
packed every night of the week with,
it is.
with,
Yeah.
That's why I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do
Yeah.
something.
Well, we had Steve bringing a ton of sand in probably last
Yeah.
year, and so I think he was still working on
The
the
perimeter.
outer rims to make sure that, God
Yeah.
forbid you get a flood there, you don't lose all the sand into the creek. And I know that the place that was renting it, they paid for the nets the first year, correct? And now they have a rental fee? So we kind
no,
of,
we signed an agreement with them that we would not charge them rental fees
Because
for
it-
3 years
3 years,
in
It's close.
in lieu of the paying for the nets?
in lieu of paying for all of the new
Right.
nets,
Right.
poles, and everything else
Okay.
that's out there. So they have 1 more year on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that is the increase in that one. Fishing supplies, again, that one I had put in 1,500 for. It was reduced to 1,000, but we spent 1,200 in there. So the reason for my increase in there, again, is things are getting more expensive, not less expensive. So,
Are there any material ones remaining? I mean, we're really running tight on time, so, I mean, unless there's some specific questions, other material items rather than smaller increases?
well, those ones I had just kind of wanted to address
Yeah,
just to
okay.
try to get
That's it.
reinstatements for some of that. Okay, so then I'll,
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be in a position to deliberate some of these things at a future meeting.
Right.
Right.
Go ahead and finish. I just have one thing I want to say.
okay. So I'll skip a couple in the summer camp one, which is something similar to the yoga where we condensed some lines that it really didn't make sense to split up. And I know that the big topic every year is the events lines, so we'll jump right into those. We know that the fireworks bill went up. I increased the budget line to meet what it went up to. Community Day never gets cheaper. It always gets more expensive, so there's an increase in there. And then there is a volunteer recognition line. I'd like to start holding more volunteer recognition events for people that help us out. That would somewhat be of a cross line between the public and some of the senior center groups that get together and do volunteer work for us.
I think it's great to recognize people. We have the garden center where they do a lot of work voluntarily. They're here on the weekends watering flowers, all kinds of things. So just recognizing them with, a little $25 gift certificate or something someplace shows you appreciate their work.
I kind of want to hold an event, like a couple events, maybe itemized by the groups. So that's kind of what I'm looking
But I also
forward to
agree,
do
I
with that.
think in certain circumstances, giving a Dunkin' card or something, we should also build that into
Don't
the
let the
lines.
attorney know we're buying gift cards.
No, pizza party, something
Yeah,
like
there
that.
we go.
Cupcake party.
Leftover swag.
Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
All right.
How
exactly.
much did we make from Community Day this year?
11
off the
grand.
rides?
11,000, well, over 11,000, which is over, it's about 3,000
Oh, it's more than
than
this,
last year.
So we netted 11,000
Correct.
on the rides.
Correct.
So that's just good to know when you look at, we're budgeting 18,000, but
Right.
we're in the 10 to 11,000 in revenue
Yeah.
from it, so
Right,
that
yeah,
helps.
that's.
And I would definitely like to, earlier in the year, revisit some of the sponsorship discussions, because Community Day is always the event that runs over budget.
Yeah, but the thing
Every
is,
year.
I mean, we sit here and talk about over budget. We just made $11,000 on rides. That's unanticipated revenue. So
Yeah.
Correct.
I don't, we spend hours discussing, trying to trim budgets for things, and we just made $11,000 on rides. So, and I'll point another thing out. In 2021, we did $50,000 in revenue on the Parks and Recreation charges. In 2022, year-to-date, we're at $86,000 in revenue.
Yeah.
So we can sit here and talk about $1,000 here and $500 here. That's a waste of our time. I don't need to have that conversation.
Yeah.
If we're doing $30,000 plus more in revenue, if you can justify an in-kind on gymnastics, I'm not going to sit here and have a 15-minute conversation about it. So you're doing a good job. You did a great job on Community Day. It's 4 days. That's a heavy lift. I think everybody went above and beyond, whether it be volunteers or staff. I was impressed with the event. We do need to have some subsequent conversations, especially based on the email, kind of an after action. It's getting so big now that we have to start thinking about other logistical considerations. And that's a good problem to have, but it's a challenge at that location because parking is never easy there. And we've gotten to the point now where Friday night, which was the night that I thought no one would be there, was jam-packed. We were bringing in light towers to light up intersections, trying to figure out how to park people. I think that we've got some great momentum going on this event. So that's something to be proud of. I was definitely proud to be there and be in that parade, which was a great parade. So, you know, we could sit here and deliberate $1,000 here and there. I'm not concerned about that. I think everything's going in the right direction in this department. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Before we forget, we need to change the date for the workshop.
What do you think?
So, you know, I had wanted to try to do the 12th in case we needed to make some adjustment on budget, you know, right? You know, since we have a deadline, Jim, you know, just shortly after that. We could do the 5th. I was trying to avoid that because that's the weekend before Election Day, but the 5th or the 19th, which then is kind of after the fact, right?
I think
I'm away the 19th.
Okay, so then the 5th?
That's fine.
That's fine.
No.
Sorry, we have early voting on the 5th, at the town hall.
So then why don't we meet at Slaughterhouse?
Or we can meet in the senior center.
Yeah, in the senior center.
Yeah.
Oh, on the early voting day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand it's the
Meet in the courthouse, too.
the courtroom.
Courtroom. There's more room.
That could work too.
Exactly.
I know it does get crazy for some of us right before Election Day, but I think two-hour block, I don't think it's
Could do it.
unreasonable, right? 10 to 12 on the 5th of
On the fifth,
November.
That's fine. I can do that.
We'll just meet in the senior center. We'll make sure the public's aware of it. I'll make a motion that we change the date to the November 5th, 10 to 12, Town Hall, Senior Center.
We have motion and second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So November the 5th in the senior center. Okay, 10 to 12.
10 to 12, hard stop.
Yep, understood. Okay.
Or we'll do it in the courthouse,
Yeah,
because
or
it's
you
bigger
can
if it's
sit- well,
the courtroom.
Senior center, we could probably move the tables around,
Yeah,
set up
true.
chairs. Right. Okay. Moving on. So next, we're into resolutions. Resolution 2022-145. This is a resolution adopting certificate of base percentages, current base proportions, and certificate of adjusted base proportions from the New York State Office of Real Property Services. This is what we have we have multiple pages, 4 or 5 pages there, similar to the process that we've done every year as we've gone into any discussion.
No, I'll move it. This is not something we have control over. It's as per the New York State Office of Real Property Services.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion second. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next is a resolution 2022-146, a resolution appointing recreation assistant as proposed by Jessica.
Can we table this until after executive session? Because I believe that has to do with some of the figures we had
Sure.
talked about.
Second.
Motion second to table. All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next item is Resolution 2022-147, a resolution granting permission for the town of Wappinger to apply for a Justice Court Assistance Program JCAP grant. You know, this is a great opportunity. You know, Chris-
$30,000 worth, sure is.
Yeah, Chris will
I'll move it.
work hard.
Second.
Motion and second. All in
Aye.
favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2022-148, resolution appointing senior account clerk typist. This is Frederick's position.
Second.
Do you want
Say a few words.
Right, so on the 9th of May, the person at that post was appointed temporarily per civil service guidelines for 90 days. So we sent the RPC, or Report of Personnel Change, to Dutchess County, and we're waiting for the certification of eligibles, which came out last week. The candidate was on the top of the list with a score of 100.
Very top of the list.
Scored 100?
Of 100.
Yes,
All right, well, that's easy.
I want to move this.
yes.
Okay, so
Motion and second. So Frederick, I
You
think
got it,
everybody has it, so motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing the motion
Done.
passes. I'm sorry.
the
Finish the
only
words.
question I have for Jim is, do we need,
So I looked at the Dutchess County rules regarding the probationary period. It's a
Yeah.
minimum of 8, maximum of 26. If it's considered a promotion, then the time already in can count. But we can just reach out to Dutchess County.
But I think it is, she's been working really hard, making major contributions.
She's been doing it before that, we just didn't make the adjustment until May, so she was doing it prior to that.
No, it's just that, so if it's an appointment off a list, an open competitive appointment, the probationary period is 8 to 26 weeks. If it's a promotional appointment, which I don't think it is.
No, so we're off of a list, so, but my opinion, it's.
I mean, if it was off a promotion,
recognition.
so those are just the rules, but again, there's some latitude for the employer to request the Dutchess County Civil Service to waive it, whether you have to go through the 8 weeks or not.
Right. I'm all in favor of doing that. We'll reach out if the board consents, agrees.
That's fine.
She's been operating in that title
Yeah.
for that
Perfect.
period. It's basically like time served.
right?
Correct. So as long as there's no objection by Dutchess County Human Resources, I'll move that we authorize the supervisor to waive the probation.
I'll second it.
Yeah, and I'll reach out. Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick, and tell Dina we really appreciate her hard work. Next item, Resolution 2022-149, resolution authorizing entering into an order on consent in connection with Midpoint Park Sewer Plant. Jim and I had talked a lot about this. Jim went and negotiated what we thought was a ridiculous order, but nevertheless, they have the final say.
Yeah, so this is an order, originally I think they wanted us to get things done within about a year to 2-year period. This is, as part of the Midpoint Park grant, or as part of the Midpoint Park project, we got an engineering planning grant from EFC to pay for a portion of the planning work that's done to take this plant offline and pump the effluent to some other facility. As a result of that, there was a lot of disconnects, I think, over on DEC.
Yeah.
Eventually had a conversation.
Jim's being polite.
So we, DEC Council and I had worked out this agreement. So we actually had a similar agreement when we did I&I pipelining
Right.
in Midpoint Park years ago. And so basically, the consent is that with the execution of the order on consent, we pay $6,000. That $6,000 comes out of the Midpoint Park fund balance. And then there's $19,200 in fees and potential fines that have been stayed. And should the town complete the schedule on time, then those fees are waived. Basically, there's a timeline here that's attached, which deals with the submission of a study to DEC sometime next, let's see, the first deadline, 24 months from today is, or 24 months from the date the order is signed, which would be today. We have to supply a sewer system evaluation survey to DEC, which talks about the deficiencies in the system and um, some consensus on how to proceed, and then construction has to be completed December 31, 2027. We don't really have, some of the other programs that we've had consent orders required more detailed timelines, but this one just...
Jim did a good job on this. The CPL is fully on
Yeah.
board with
And
this.
KMO's fully on board as well, because they're going to have to do.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
all that's been involved, so
So, and, as discussed, we're looking at a couple of options. One option is running from midpoint into East Fishkill to a sewage treatment there to hook up in the Fishkill Plains area, and then down to the old IBM facility. And, the other option, which had been looked at in the past on the original, tri-municipal Phase 3 contract, Phase 3B, which was to send it to Tri-Muni. So...
And it's about 2x the cost to do that?
That's right. Leaves
So
much
it's
more.
about 2x the cost if you go down to Tri-Muni versus going
Current
to East
CPL.
Fishkill?
Yeah.
It's about that,
I
right?
mean, the one thing with Tri-Muni is we have, there's, I don't know if we have to do a plant expansion. So we have treatment, we have some existing treatment capacity at Tri-Muni. We don't have any treatment capacity in East Fishkill, so we'd have to pay for that.
Right. Well, I'll make a motion to move it then.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So then, Jim, do you sign, I sign it, or who signs that?
Yeah, you saw.
I sign it, right. And we,
And then I have an
yeah,
updated...
I see it.
I've got an updated invoice that I got today from DEC, so I'll send it to Frederick.
Okay, thank you. Next item is our tennis court. Resolution 2022-150, resolution authorizing contract for tennis court resurfacing. Have we made any progress on that?
So I think, Steve, you probably have a little more progress, because I think last time what we asked for is what is the warranty on this one?
Yeah.
So Steve, I think you have an update on that? It's 1-year warranty?
Tim was looking into the one in Craftco. I checked with the company from Brewster, and they told me 1 year.
1 year.
Tim Moot sent me an email and said it's a 1-year warranty on both of them.
Okay.
Okay.
So the resolution here is for Craftco, which was the lower cost of the two.
That's also the same company that Challenger Field as well. So they're pretty reputable. They're part of the state bid process already. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve this and get it taken care of. But I would suggest that we don't start this naturally till the springtime, right? To do anything now would be, basically a waste of time and money. So I make a motion that we approve the $58,696 for this contract.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next resolution is Resolution 2022-151, resolution authorizing contract for appraisal services for potential purchase of real estate. Jim?
So if we can table this and we'll talk about it.
Okay, that's fine. Motion to table. Do I have a motion to table?
Table.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Resolution 2022-152, it's related to the acknowledgement of the correspondence law.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Frederick, you had made a request to discuss transfer, budget transfer. Is that still?
I have extra copies here.
I don't have it.
Oh, okay.
No.
Thank you. Oops.
Sarah, I'm so sorry that you're having to wait this long.
Thank you. I don't need it. Thank you. I have it.
So I will go through quickly through the list. The first one is straightforward. We are looking for money to move 1,400 from account clerk typist, which is a personnel line, to account control equipment. We bought a laptop for our escrow clerk person to use, and we didn't fund it in 2022. And because I have some leeway on the personnel line, I think that's straightforward. The next one is the miscellaneous. This is an item that normally we use to post a lot of our expenditure, especially the ones that are to do with this building, anything building related. For example, we just recently got some bills to change the exit doors for the west and the east of about 3,700 each, which was about 7,000 in total. So the way I arrived at this 18,000 is I looked at what we spent last year, and even though right now is still under budget, I said that the minimum I could do at this point, because I really don't know what we might end up with at the end of the year, is to at least have it reflect what we spent last year. That's how I came up with the 18,000.
So are all these anticipated expenses that you're going to have here? Because that's not actuals yet, correct? So you're including not only what you have year-to-date plus what your anticipated expenses are going to be? In other words, you're not going to come back to us in 3 months and go, by the way, I need to do another budget transfer?
I can't guarantee that, but it is my hope that I don't come back to you.
Because I have a number of questions on some of the transfers
Yes.
you want to do that,
Yeah, and we're not talking pennies. You know,
yeah, we're talking some significant dollars.
Yeah.
I mean,
163,900 for just A fund.
And for example, this miscellaneous, you saw the details of those expenditures. I sent you a list of the full miscellaneous expense, and you saw what they are. There are so many things that are coming up, and mostly are to do with maybe repairing something in the building, or So Steve has...
There are a couple of large, and I'll pick the ones, I think Dick said is 160-some thousand, but there's two. There's one for 60,000 and one for 47,000. And if I look at where we are today in those, based on your year-to-date spreadsheets, I'm significantly under. So I'm trying to figure out why all of a sudden do I need to move that amount of money?
Right.
I mean, I don't even have that amount in actuals yet.
Oh, we're talking about 300,000
So it is in total?
total.
So let's talk about this 47,000. We have, as you may be aware or not, we've had some issues with the professional bills, professional expenses, engineer, attorney. So as these bills come in, we take time to look at them, and we've been finding some major errors with them. So some we'd have to return back to them to correct. When they go back to the professional, they take longer to do so, and then they come back sometimes with the same mistakes. Secondly, some of them, there's been a delay in the billing process. So we don't always get the bills on time.
That's fine, but I think the core question is what is planned in the budget,
Right.
and how much are we overrunning in the year? You know, the process, I think everybody knows we've been working it to adjust the budgets, so to adjust the fees, right, and the amounts charged.
Yes.
But since we're talking about 288,000.
Right. So the reason why I bring it now is because we had agreed last year that we do not need to wait until the end of the year. So if I wait and make sure that I have at least a significant portion of the bills, let's say up to September, because right now we don't have bills up to September. We have up to about July, but we are already in September. So the best thing to do at this time is to come before you and tell you that at least we should, or I should request, at least what we spent, equivalent of what we spent last year. And even if you are to approve these balances or transfer amounts, the money is not going to disappear if we end up with a position where we transferred more than we need. It's just going to be the fund balance. So unless we actually spend the money, then there's a problem. but we cannot spend if the line is over.
So on the fund balance you're providing us and some of the things that the supervisors use to do the budget, are they still realistic numbers? Because you now have all these transfers where you're taking money out of the A and B fund, and if you use some of that money to help get us to the 2% tax cap, does that take that balance down? The answer should be yes. Do you have it included or not included?
Well, the 750,000 is for next year, so we are talking about 2022.
What do you
And
mean
the
for-
750,000 is from the B fund.
But how's it?
Unless
Yeah.
there's drawdown on
Yeah.
B fund or the A
We are
fund,
not-
because that impacts
yeah.
what the fund balance is going into next year,
Yes.
right? And that's what we need to look at.
Is the HVAC for this building?
Yes.
I will say,
That,
that's
like,
under
Don't even,
yeah, that one you got
go
to do
there.
though, so.
have heat this morning.
It's
There
just,
was air coming up. Right, Maria?
it never ends.
Another example is last year Steve rented some HVAC system from Advanced Customs, and the total bill was $49,000, and apparently they forgot to bill us 100%. They only billed us 50%.
So what I suggest is...
Forgot.
Yes.
I suggest, I mean, these are monies that are due and owing, right? You know, because we have bills, you know, attorneys, engineer, so forth. But we need to probably have at the, you know, so we probably need to authorize these, but we need to have, you know, Frederick, you need to give us an update as to what the projections are for the end of the year and then the impact on the
So-
fund balances.
So one of the things I asked for, right, was, and I saw Judith in the hall, because she's
Yeah,
reconciling
right.
all the
Oh, yeah,
bills.
every day we
And
meet.
everything she gave, just so you know, includes escrows. Escrows should be separate from this because they're paid out of a different budget. So the balance she gave me are substantially higher than what they should be. So she was supposed to go back, provide you with some numbers tonight. I don't know if she did have a chance or not, but I would say the amounts that you're going to see are probably a lot less than what Judith had, right? Because again, I
I don't
asked her
think
tonight
she would know
specifically.
because the person who codes those bills is me in terms of, she only does the escrows, but the non-escrows, you know,
That's
I
what I
have to
wanna
look
see. I
at the
wanna-
voucher and then,
Judith has been looking at non-escrows a while because it, you know, it's the overall bill, you know, that comes
Yeah.
in from our
So she's
lawyers, our
reconciling
engineers,
with the
you know, our
consultants.
planners, you know,
Right.
so, you know, the escrow though, I think Al's saying, it doesn't come into this number, right? Escrows aren't included into 287,000 because they're coming out of a separate, you know, funds, right? These should only be the attorney's fees and, sorry, Jim, I'm not meaning to pick on you, but,
Okay.
you know, that, you know, are coming out of our A and B funds, whereas escrow monies don't come out of those funds. They come
Right.
from a separate
Correct.
line.
and what I meant to say is that she does not allocate the A, B, and DB, so she only does the escrow. So they have to come to accounting, and then we decide how to, you know, where to allocate them, whether it's A, B, or DB, or water or sewer.
For the non-escrow fees.
Exactly, yes.
So
So these should not include escrow, Al.
No.
So the
no,
one
this
issue I have is, and I'll just pick on one,
Yeah.
right? This is line 1420.400. Year-to-date spending's $21,000. Budget's $100,000. You're asking for an additional $60,000. So it says we got $140,000 worth of bills coming in. That's a lot of money.
That's a
I
whole
will,
lot of
I will give you another example.
So
Last
I
year,
just want to understand it, that's all. If
Right.
you know, the services are rendered, we don't have a choice, but, you know, I think we need a little better headlights on this to make sure that, you know, we're not doing these gigantic transfers, you know, on the month of October, and is that going to cover us through the rest of the year? Is that going to cover us through 2022? I don't know.
so let's put it in another way. Last year, the F-14-2400, we actually approved up to 189,000 in the amended budget, right? But what we ended up spending is only, I think, 160,000, and I did explain that to you earlier on. So you can see that there's a difference of 20,000, which is leftover funds in the budget that goes back to the fund balance. So it really, even if you approve 20 or 30 or 40, if you don't get to spend it, it remains in the fund balance. The money is not spent. So, but I don't want a situation whereby the bills are coming in and we are not able to pay them, and they have been approved because of work approved by the town board, just because there's no money in the line. I want a situation where we have enough money in the line because we agreed that for the budget purposes, we need to cut them to meet the tax
So I get it,
cap.
if you don't spend it, it goes back in the fund balance. My
Exactly.
question is, but what have you assumed in the fund balances that the supervisor is using for the budget? Have you taken these expenses out assuming they're going to be paid?
So in the 2023 budget, if that's what you are referring to, we have budgeted adequately. If you look at most of the lines, they have been bumped up quite a bit
Is there,
for 2023.
is there an explanation for the $115,000 for health and medical?
Yes, there is, because what we did last year was, when we were moving the B fund, the PACs, 7110, at the point we were moving the parks department, we did not move the equivalent amount of the health insurance because we were only thinking about the parks. But once we moved the Steve and his employees to the B fund, we should have also bumped up the health insurance, which we didn't do.
Instead of coming out of VA.
So we missed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this goes back to your point, Dick, where you were talking about trucks and everything else and fund balances. I mean, you're taking a significant amount of money out of B fund. Plus, I know we had to use some money for B fund to make the budget come out where we need it to be. So, I mean, I'm concerned about these huge budget transfer lines here. I don't feel
But
comfortable.
I think as we should.
I'm still not following the logic or the methodology here at all. So, maybe I'm missing something, but as Al said, for 2022 in the attorney A fund line, 1420.4, there's $100,000 budgeted, right? The actual as of September 30th, if I'm reading this correctly, is $21,000.
Yep.
So why are we transferring $60,000 now?
Because that is not the balance as of 9/30, that's the balance as of 5/31, because we have bills that are still being looked at, processed. We are returning some of them. So that 9/30 balance is not really 9/30 balance. There's quite a lot of bills out there that we haven't paid. We have been returning it to them, to the professionals. And when they do come in, I believe that we will exceed that 100,000. That's why.
That's not the way we operate, though. That's totally inappropriate. We should not be operating that way. We should be in real time seeing what the actual is and hitting the brakes when we get to 75 or 80% of the line and saying, okay, we're in the fourth quarter, we got 25% of the year left, and we now only have 5% of the budget left. I do not support moving this until I see actuals and a total analysis of spending in real time in front of me. There's no way a 9/30 actual can be 21,000, and then 10 days later, we're moving $60,000. So
Well, it's 140,000,
Yeah,
because you got the
Yeah.
balance of Whistler on the budget.
I'm just talking about one here.
Yeah.
I don't agree with this process. We should, and this goes back to what I've said before previously. You don't overspend the line, not report the actual, and then ask for $60,000. That doesn't make any sense to me. And don't be offended by this, but that's how towns get into problems, when they are spending without visibility. And that's exactly what's happening right here. I understand there's bills going back to May, but the actual, in my opinion, should be anticipating what those expenses are. It shouldn't be, telling me $21,000 when in actuality we've overspent the line already on October 11th. That doesn't make sense to me. So I don't agree with this whole thing. I'm not voting for it.
So
Neither am I.
just to clarify this in my mind, to make it simple, in B fund, you're asking for 228,000. 209,000 was an oops.
Why do you say that?
Because we didn't bring it to bring it into the B fund when we
Right.
moved the, so you have the health and medical and the
Right.
retirement, and we didn't carry it over when we moved the lines into the B fund.
Well, I could see that because some of the positions were moved to B fund, and
Right,
when you
no,
move the salaries.
I get it, but to your point earlier is why, to Steve, I mean, we just made a $209,000 mistake that we have to figure out what else we're going to,
Had we put
Use
it in the
those
B
funds.
fund last year, we would not have made the tax rate that we wanted to make.
No, you understand the intent of why it was done, but,
Right,
but
right.
and there's still, and I'll say this out loud, Jim, I mean, there's still a debate to be had with respect to A fund positions and B fund positions, period. I understand what we're doing here because we have more fund balance in the B fund, and we want to try to not only spend it down, but more equitably operate this budget, right? I get that. In addition to the salary, we have to include the fringe, right? So
Right.
I think it's an honest,
no, it is an
Mistake
honest
here,
mistake,
yeah.
but we have to now account for it.
which,
Well, I mean, I think the other thing, though, is there should be at least a concomitant reduction in the A fund, right?
Well, if it was never planned in A,
right, right.
I
So-
think that's the whole issue.
I think it was pulled out, but
It was
never.
pulled out of A, and now they got to put it in B.
That
No.
was never added.
That's what it appears,
It's
yes.
an error, absolutely.
It's a
It
typo,
was-
it's a typo, really. It's
And
not,
and again, things
It
like that
wasn't-
happen, right?
Typo.
So,
because you didn't credit the other fund, so it's not like you.
It wasn't,
Now we have to account for it.
yeah.
so now you got to account for it, so it's an error, okay. But
Okay.
some of the other stuff, though, I mean, just some of the fund balance moving, again, for the two lines, the attorney and engineer, it's almost 110,000 between them in the A fund, and a pretty good amount in the B fund, and we're not even there. So as Councilman Beal said, I want to see year-to-date, actuals. In September, what you have on here is not, it's so little, you got to be missing billings. I know you only got them through May for most of the stuff, but how can you tell between May and, say, the end of September, what you're missing? Do you have something from, whether it's Judith or somebody else that you're looking at that tells you this is what you're missing, and this is why you need to add, move 60,000 in the one and 47 in the other? Or I don't want to just move money for the sake of moving money I like to see what the actuals are, so I have a good gauge that, we know what we're doing. We got bills in hand we got to pay. Certainly you got to do that, but I can't believe we have $140,000, like I said, in bills for, the A1420.400. It just seems like an astronomical amount.
Yeah, so I think we should go the bills way that let's wait until when we have processed all the bills. My only concern is that by year end, by December 31st of this year, we will not be having all the bills ready. So we'll move into the next year, and that's when I think
No,
perhaps
we need to know next
No.
meeting.
Well, that's a fair point, though, because
Yeah, but
what he's saying is, and this does happen, where the
Yeah.
bills aren't received by the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
I get that.
Yes.
But it can't be a delta of $107,000 between two lines in the A fund. I mean, listen, I'll fess up to the $1,200 for Palmetier Park for the item 4 we had to put down. That's my fault, but we had to do something. And we're always going to have a challenge as we guesstimate health and medical, right?
Right.
We're always going to have
Right.
that.
Yeah.
When we moved positions from the B fund to the, from the A fund to the B fund and didn't move the fringe over, I get that. But if you look at the net here, yeah, we're charging it to the B fund, but we're not crediting the A fund.
fund.
That's
right?
correct.
So I'm not concerned about that. I'm more concerned about and by the way, just for the record, we have multi-million dollars in surpluses here, so we're not going bankrupt over this. It's more of a matter of principle why we're arguing this, is because there's different accounting methodologies in play here. With respect to the 60,000 and the 47,000, that's where my concern primarily lies. The other transfers, I've been here for a number of years, and it's not abnormal to do these types of transfers as you come into the fourth quarter, right? But these big numbers are the ones that I'm not comfortable with.
So why can't we approve some of the small ones we
Right.
agreed to, and then have
Yeah.
them go back and do analysis on the other 60, the 47, the 10, the 6, and whatever other big ones we think. The 115 you were talking about in 94 is nothing you can do, it's a
115
miss.
is legitimate.
It's legit, it's just
The
a
B
miss.
fund is, it's basically, it's $19,000.
And the rest of it's small dollars
The
in the B
rest
fund.
is, you
So
know,
we can, in my opinion, we can approve some of these things tonight, but there's
Right.
some others I want more
That you
details
can't-
on.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, so perhaps A14, 20, 400, we hold off on that. And then the A14, 40, 400 engineer, 47,000, we hold off on that too.
So hold off on the 60,000 and the 47,000?
Yes, because I think,
That also, hang on, the B fund, I think I want to look at that too, because
it's Bill's Parmentier Park, it blows it
I
out.
don't care
so
about
both,
So if you look at, here's just another example. So in the B fund, right, for the $10,000 transfer,
Yep.
we've only spent $14,250 year-to-date. We got a budget of 60, and now you want to add another 10. I think that needs to be looked at as well.
let's hold off on that too as well then.
I mean, so I think it's really the 60 to 47, the 10 and the 6, and I know 10 and 6 doesn't
agree.
sound like a lot, but when you
No,
take a
I
look
think
at
you're right.
where we are again, year-to-date spending, it just doesn't make sense.
All right, so I'll move we approve all the transfers with the exception of the A fund and B fund attorney and engineer transfers.
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
second it.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Just one question about the chargeback. Is that the bill we just got?
Yes.
So that's what we've learned years ago, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the chargeback for the purposes of Dutchess County real property, determining, it determines our bottom line tax rates.
It's also tax cert refund.
Tax cert refund. So it's necessary. We had deliberation about this years ago. We couldn't figure out why our tax rate was calculating differently than it was showing up on the Dutchess County Real Property website. That's because we have to pay the charge back in order to compensate for that.
So we decided to just.
Yeah, we just pay it here.
Just pay it now.
Yeah, which we
So it
may do
doesn't
it for a
affect-
few
so it doesn't
years.
affect
Forever.
the tax cap. I get it.
Correct,
Yep.
right.
Correct.
Makes sense.
Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you.
Frederick.
Okay, so executive session, we have a couple items, meeting with our town planner, and then we had one HR related, correct?
Yes.
Before we get to that, if we just can,
Oh, that's fine.
I know it's not on here, items for special consideration for the council members. If we can take a look at the ambulance district budget, we're going to have to take a look a little bit closer. It's already set based on the contract. However, due to uncertainties and instabilities within the EMS world in general, I think we need to have a conversation about potentially adding another ALS ambulance for at least 16 hours a day.
I agree.
Because the mutual aid system, which our contract is based on, is not as dependable as it has been previously. That's all I'll say publicly. We have no issues with our vendor, but the vendors that we depend on for mutual aid purposes are having some challenges. So
Bill and I have discussed briefly, and I agree with Bill's suggestion.
just, without getting specific,
Right. No,
today
we don't
was an
need to get in that.
example where the neighboring mutual aid had to come here to town hall for medical emergency. So I want to try to be in a position where we can be more self-sustainable. It's difficult to rely on mutual aid when mutual aid is not existing 24/7. So before we set that budget, if we can have a conversation about that, we may need to take a look at it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. So, motion to go in
I'll make a
executive
motion to
session
go in
for the two
executive
items we mentioned.
Second.
Okay.
Say it.
Appointing someone
Yeah.
and
Discussions with,
discussion related to the.
yeah, and we'll go into the small conference room.
Thank you.
Thank you.